Ladies and gentlemen, Redditors were able to achieve a profound victory over Wall Street. It was pretty amazing. So much so that hedge funds had to bail out another hedge fund. So the average investor won it was a paradigm-changing moment. Now you have, right after that paradigm-changing moment, you have AOC and Ted Cruz on the same side. We think. I'll give you exactly what's really taking place. There are no populists on the left, okay? AOC has no intention of Medicare for all. She never had any intention to pass Medicare for all. That was a grift. These are the biggest grifters of all time. Medicare for all, they have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency. What's stopping them from passing Medicare for all or Green New Deal legislation? We only have 11 years for the planet, right? Or universal basic income. They're never going to pass any of those things. Hit subscribe to this channel right now because I'm going to give you analysis and an evaluation of what's going on that most people can't see, especially people who say, well, you know what, AOC is on the side or Democrats are on the side of Reddit. They're not. They're not on the side of Redditors. Elizabeth Warren asked the Securities and Exchange Commission to get involved. Well, they just got involved. And they just issued the following statement, January 29, 2021. This was yesterday. The commission is closely monitoring and evaluating the extreme price volatility of certain stocks trading prices over the past several days. Our core market infrastructure has proven resilient under the weight of this week's extraordinary trading volumes. Nevertheless, extreme stock price volatility has the potential to expose investors to rapid and severe losses and undermine market confidence. Who do you think they're referring to? Who asked for this? Wasn't Ted Cruz, okay? It wasn't AOC, but it was Elizabeth Warren, another populist or progressive or, left-leaning Democrat. Obviously, she's not a left-leaning Democrat. She's not a progressive. Neither is AOC. They're not focusing on what they're there to do. They're there. Now, I support President Trump because I want Americans home from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. There's this imbecile on Twitter who called me a far-right person. I am not far-right, you absolute buffoon. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. President Trump signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism, so maybe that is a horrible thing to people, Democrats or whatever. He signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses, which is running rampant. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Even Bernie Sanders voted for that. Recognized the Golan as Israel's. It was AOC that had Yad Vashem, in Jerusalem, refute her absurd revisionist history pertaining to a topic she knows nothing about. So anyway, we can go on forever. President Trump, not only did he do amazing things and preside over amazing foreign policy achievements, the Abraham Accords being one of them, peace between Israel, UAE, Bahrain, economic, and Morocco, economic deals between Serbia and Kosovo, ended the longest-running military conflict and war in Afghanistan. That's not far right. So any miserable, pathetic fool who thinks those are far-right things. Obviously, the Democrats, anything that opposes the Lincoln Project is far-right. But anyway, the issue here is that it's not, Ted Cruz is not far-right. Ted Cruz is a populist. The populists on the left don't exist. The only populists that really exist are people like Ted Cruz, President Trump, and others. Now, who do you think, we'll get back to the SEC, but there's so much to talk about here. Who do you think wants to crack down on Reddit? You think it's Trump? You think it's Ted Cruz? You think it's the average Republican? The knock on Republicans is that they don't want regulation. Their whole thing is free market, and the knock on them from Democrats is that, oh my God, there's not enough regulation. The second that this took place, that a hedge fund that Janet Yellen took Biden's Treasury Secretary got $810,000 from speaking engagements from one of the hedge funds that bailed out the other hedge fund that was almost going under because they couldn't cover their short positions on GameStop. Now, who do you think? What political side do you think is going to go after Redditors and potentially individual Redditors through the SEC? It was Elizabeth Warren that asked the SEC to get involved. It wasn't any Republican or so the never Trump Republicans will side with Democrats on this also. Trump is not really a Republican. That's his allure. I mean, he is, but he's not. He's a completely different entity. He presided over a lot of great things, but the imbeciles who look at this and say, "Oh well, look, I hope that the government doesn't crack down." The government is run by Democrats. Democrats have asked the Securities and Exchange Commission to get involved. A Democratic Treasury Secretary got $800,000 from one of the hedge funds involved in this. Who do you think they're going to go after? What political side do you think is going to push for cracking down or ending this type of activity? It's Democrats. AOC was offered by Ted Cruz, say, "Hey, let's work on this together." She said, "No, you tried to ruin my life," which is not true at all. It's so absurd. It's like nonsensical and irrational. It's a typical statement, but President Trump had nothing to do with the tragedy that took place, other than there shouldn't have been protests on that day. He did not tell people to do anything. Ted Cruz didn't tell people to do anything. God forbid Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz did exactly what Democrats tried to do 4 years ago. These people are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. What took place had nothing to do with Trump. He did not tell people to do anything. That's why they're impeaching him. They're not taking him to a court of law. Why don't you think they took Trump to a court of law or Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz? Because they can't. And so when AOC makes the absurd comment, it's not just the typical, nonsensical, irrational, emotional tirade. It's deflection. She does not want to work with Ted Cruz on this, just like she does not want to force any floor vote, just like she is petrified of what Jimmy Dore is doing, just like they all are. Democrats do not want Medicare for all. They don't want a Green New Deal legislation. They don't want universal basic income. These are not Democratic Party policies. They're Green Party policies. They also don't want to help Redditors. That's not when you have Elizabeth Warren asking, and the link is below. When Elizabeth Warren asks the SEC to get involved, and the SEC says, quote, "As always, the commission will work to protect investors, to maintain fair, orderly, and efficient market, and to facilitate capital formation. The commission is working closely with our regulatory partners, both across the government and other regulatory self-regulatory organizations, including stock exchanges, to ensure that regulated entities uphold their obligations to protect investors and to identify and persuade and pursue potential wrongdoing." The hedge fund that got hurt, they're not going to be targeted because they can say, "Hey, look, we lost all this money because of a message board." They will refer to it as a message board that deliberately try to tank a stock, not a whole bunch of people who are going up against the system. That's what Elizabeth Warren asked for. That's what the Democrats asked for. They're the ones who got the SEC involved, and this is what I feared. The definitely AOC, Elizabeth Warren, the Democratic Party, Biden's Treasury Secretary. There's no way, in my view, and I hope that I'm wrong, but there's no way there's no way they're going to. There's absolutely no way that they're going to. There's absolutely no way they're going to defend the people they should defend, because you look at the track record. This is a political party that, in terms of executive orders, nobody on the left cares about. So Biden has done literally nothing for the left. Now, I support President Trump. I'm no longer a progressive or on the left. Certainly not a far-right person. God, these people are so stupid. I don't have a Twitter account, but there's one absolute buffoon who hides behind a profile, sort of far-right pundit. And I'm like, what? Who is he referring to? This isn't even the Twitter impersonator that's breaking the law. This is another person hiding behind a profile, hiding behind a fake profile because he's too frightened and scared to show his face on the internet. He's like, far right. And this guy goes after, this is hilarious. It's an account that goes after pretty much, this account goes after everyone on the left, any Republicans, but it's really funny too because it's like he basically is a Biden Democrat. A Biden Democrat who doesn't care about what Tara Reid alleged, doesn't care about the crime bill, doesn't care about the Lincoln Project and Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld relying on the votes of people like Biden and Kerry and, Biden, Kerry, Clinton. Doesn't care about President Obama destroying Libya with a failed NATO intervention. But this is really interesting. So we can go on forever. But anyway, in addition, we will act to protect retail investors when the facts demonstrate abusive or manipulative trading activity that is prohibited by the federal securities laws. Okay, the activities they're referring to are Reddit. They're going to crack down. You're going to see hit pieces. You're already seeing hit pieces. Well, one of the founders say that this Reddit activity has gone unchecked. That's a Business Insider article. You have the SEC involved because of Elizabeth Warren. You have AOC who was offered help to unite on this, to work together, and they say, you caused, it's like, what are you talking about? It has nothing to do with, if she truly believed that, why not take Ted Cruz to court? You could sue Ted Cruz, AOC. You could file a criminal complaint. Why don't you? I filed a criminal complaint on one of the Twitter profiles that threatened my life. And they still have the criminal complaint form. On the LAPD still literally has. There's a criminal file on this this Twitter user. Okay, so you can file a criminal report. Why don't you, AOC? She doesn't because it's pure hyperbole and nonsense. This is the way Democrats, the way they speak, your viewpoints are dangerous. You can't refute them without the most absurd, extreme hyperbolic nonsense. They have no argument. So when they're called out, see, AOC right now is dealing with Jimmy Dore and a Medicare for All reckoning that everyone knows now Democrats don't want. I'm not opposed to Medicare for All in terms of philosophy. I don't think it's feasible. It would be nice. I don't think it's feasible, and it's not on the radar of things I think are the most important issues. The most important issue for me is to bring home Americans from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. But the way AOC thinks is the following. Oh my God, Jimmy Dore's forcing me to the grift is over. The curtain has been pulled back, and now everybody sees that I don't really care about Medicare for All. What do? Oh, accuse Ted Cruz of something absurd. Focus on anything but the policies that I'm elected to implement. So when she's offered help, for example, on this issue, standing up for the little guy, the average Joe, she doesn't take the help because it's not if she's not going to actually implement Medicare for All, you think she'll help Redditors? No. Many of whom, by the way, are libertarian in their philosophy and definitely not liberal Democrats. And so you see what's taking place. The political side that's cracking down on the average Joe, as always, is the Democratic Party, the same political party that wrote the crime bill. So it's pretty unbelievable. I hope that I'm wrong regarding what takes place, but it's really interesting that this is taking place in Biden's America. You have Ted Cruz, Trump GOP, Trump Republicans backing Reddit, and Democrats in a sly, deceptive, conniving manner, saying, yeah, we're going to stick up for the little guy. Hey, SEC, can you get involved? Oh, no, I don't want to help. I don't want to work with you, Ted Cruz, because you were really mean and you caused bad things, even though I'm not going to go after you in a court of law or even file a criminal report. Does anyone ever ask why she hasn't filed a criminal report against, why haven't they filed criminal reports against Trump? Why hasn't the mayor of D.C. or the attorney general of D.C. gone after Trump in a court of law? They only impeach him because they can, impeachment, they say, oh, it's a political tool. It's a political tool. Yeah, they're not going to go after him in a court of law. The left has no arguments. That's why they have to disparage people. That's why they have to engage in hyperbole. That's why when you have the Biden Democrats, their biggest threats are on the left and any populist who's a Republican. They love the Mitt Romneys, which nobody likes, and the Ben Sass, and they love the Pelosi's. And if you just stay within a certain lane, you don't go too far to the left. I mean, Bernie Sanders was a threat not long ago. Now he's, oh, look at him. He's so funny with his mittens. He's no longer a threat, so they leave him alone. And he's part of the grift, along with the progressives in Congress. They don't want Medicare for all. Not only do they not want Medicare for all, they have the Lincoln Project, and they're going after Redditors. So how on earth is this Democratic Party going to govern for the next 4 years without really a base? There's like zero support in terms of a base for policies. They ran on contempt for President Trump. And unfortunately, President Trump's rhetoric took the spotlight away from his fantastic achievements. The first president set foot in North Korea, President Moon Jae-in, stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. So, at the end of this segment, there's just one thing to remember. I hope the SEC does not go after Reddit. I was fearing this. If they do, it will be because of Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and Democrats. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe.